still had a data file that's bigger than anything that any CIA, FBI, or I don't know, Stasi ever had about an average person. If you hit the remove button, it just means that it's flagged as deleted. So you hide it actually from yourself. But anyone like Facebook or any government agency that wants to look at it later can still retrieve it and get it back. And that means that it's there for an indefinite time. Even though you hit the delete button and they ask you 3 times if you really, really want to delete it.
It's not actually gone.
It's not actually gone, it's still there.
So we've ultimately adopted roughly the following rule. We think of it as we anonymize the information within 18 months.
It might be anonymized after 18 months, but all of the searches that we've ever done are still there. The underlying data is still there to be de-anonymized at some point.
And de-anonymizing search records turns out to be shockingly easy. That is, taking private searches and finding out whose records they are. In 2006, AOL turned over a bunch of these anonymized search records of their users to the public. And it only took a few short hours for a reporter to decode who user number 4417749 was. Between searches for things like numb fingers, 60 single men, and dog that urinates on everything, the reporter uncovered a woman named Thelma Arnold. She was age 62. But then there's user 175566639, who looked up how to kill your wife multiple times, along with decapitated photos, and then in the middle, the user actually looks up steak and cheese. Steak and cheese! And there were plenty of users online who were quick to judge what was going on here. It was murder.
Wait, easy.
Hey, old friend.
Easy.
So, let's take a seat and I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
What I'm showing you here is a list of anonymized search records. These records were released by AOL. Are there actually things on this list that you know you've searched for before?
Sure. Yeah, I have definitely. I've definitely looked up car crash photos. I've definitely typed in decapitated. I've definitely looked up dead people photos. I've definitely looked up wife killer. Yeah. In fact, I've looked up every single search term I'm looking at here.
You see, Jerome had been a writer on Cold Case, a TV show where each week cops have to solve a murder mystery.
Well, that's always what scared me when I was entering those search terms, was if there's some sort of automated system that just red flags you based on the search term, they're not going to look and say, oh yeah, he was probably working on a TV show, and that's why he was just Googling how to murder my cheating wife.
What?
I just wanted to confirm that I had not murdered you and that you were alive.
No, I am allowed to come out of this room. And our baby's safe.
Okay, good.
It has a clean diaper.
Oh, thank God.
So we can rest assured you are not a murderer.
I am not a murderer.
You are a writer.
I'm a writer.
Okay.
Glad we can clear that up.
Glad we could clear that up.
So, what would happen if that red flag system did exist? If a dad like Jerome might someday have his door knocked on because his search records became public.
Consensus seems to be that the retention of this kind of information should be greater than 0 days. And the reason it has to do with police actions, terrorists, Patriot Act, all those sorts of things.
If you look at news stories now about what they call big data is really looking up the question of how can government and corporations work with that data in order to look for anomalies and predict when you're going to do something so they can stop you from doing it.
And the government isn't even that secretive about it. If you visit their business website, there's an application there looking for developers to create better tools for mass surveillance of our online activity. Examples for surveillance include, but are not limited to, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Which brings us back to that word you'll find in many user agreements. It's the word that sent us down this whole path in the first place. Prevent. So this might make you wonder, what potential threats would all of the surveillance we agreed to actually prevent?
Basically, January the 3rd, 20 days before I go on holiday, I tweet, "Are you free this week for a gossip/prep before I go destroy America?" Ended the tweet with a kiss, as threatening as that is. 20 20 days later, get on a flight, go to LAX. We had a hotel in Hollywood Boulevard. We were just going to potter around for a week, just looking around, just being tourists. Got off the plane, went through the passport control, swiped my passport through, and they're like, can you come this way? And I was like, it's because I got an Irish passport. I thought maybe Irish people is like stereotype, IRA bombers. So they went through my suitcase, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? And then when they pulled me into the holding room, I was questioning me for 5 hours about whether I had a Twitter account. I was like, are you being serious? Are you actually holding me because of a tweet? And they're like, what do you mean by destroy America? And I was like, to party, it means to go wild, get drunk. Any moron that could read that tweet can see what it's meant as. Like, it ends with a kiss. I'm sure, like, Hitler doesn't end his memoirs with a kiss or whatever he did. So then they moved us to a holding room. But then at midnight, the staff changed over and they weren't aware of what we were there for. So they handcuffed us, stuck us in the back of a police van, and then took us to a downtown, like, prison detention center. Innocent people shouldn't be treated like absolute dirt. And they were dragging us around, pushing us into walls.
Sounds like a horrible vacation. Is the government refunding you at least?
No, they won't comment on what happened. Well, if I'd put I was going to paint the town red, they'd have me done for graffiti as well, wouldn't they? When I go to other countries, this is going to show up that I got refused from America, so more than likely I'm now going to get dragged off at every airport and questioned about what happened, and I have to explain to them that it was a tweet.
I'm Italian, Irish, French, Portuguese, Native American, Black, I'm even like 1/18th Avatar.
This is Joe Lipari. Joe Lipari had had a rough day at the Apple store. He had been forced to wait in line for 4 hours before finally leaving.
So I get home from the Apple store, still a little irritated, smoke a little dope, put on Fight Club, just trying to relax, go on Facebook.
And this button-down Oxford cloth psycho might just snap and then stalk from office to office
with an armored AR-10 gas-powered semi-automatic weapon. And I said the same thing, but except the Apple store.
Pumping round after round.
And, you know, basically word for word, except for where. Hanging out on Facebook, getting ready to go to yoga class, and there's a shave and a haircut. 2 bits, knock on my door. So I was like, hey, maybe somebody's here to watch Fight Club with me. Open it up, boom, NYPD SWAT, their bulletproof vests on, their guns drawn, and they tear the place apart. You know, they really go through everything. When the one cop, you know, finds the box that has all my, like, military awards, he comes bringing it down. He's like, oh, you were in the military? And we start talking, like, you know, Army talk. He sees that I speak the language. And that's when he asked me, he was like, so do you know what an Armalite AR-10? And I was like, that's why you're here, guys? You're here because I made a bad joke on Facebook. Like, it blew my mind. Like, it's the ultimate buzzkill, really. Your Facebook page is brought SWAT to your house. They told me not to, like, you know, go far from New York because I'm going to be needed for all these court cases for a year. They claim one of my Facebook friends called 911, which is another thing I think is bogus. So I asked for the 911 tape, which they keep on file. They have to. And it's my right, it's my stuff. They have to give me my mugshots if I want it. So they come back and say, oh, turns out it wasn't someone that called 911. It was someone that just walked into the police station, and that's something we don't keep a record of. And how'd you get my address? I'd lived there for like 10 days. You know, like, I didn't update my mailing address yet. Like, all my banking stuff was still going to my old apartment. Like, there was nothing saying I lived there except for a verbal agreement.
3 minutes after being done with my lunch, I was told to go up to the office, and then I would sat down inside the vice principal's office, and I wasn't told what was going on until maybe 10 minutes later.
My phone rings, I look at it, and it was the number to his school, and I answer it, and it's the school security guard just giving me a FYI, you know, for your information, just to give you a heads up, the Secret Service is here with the Tacoma Police Department, and they have Vito, and they're talking to him.
A man walked in a suit and glasses, and he said that he was part of the Secret Service, and he told me it was because of a post that I made, and it indicated as a threat towards the president.
Yes, a 7th grade boy was visited by our FBI because of a red flag that came up in their spy system.
I was saying how Osama is dead and for Obama to be careful because there might be suicide bombers.
It didn't consider his age, or that his comment about Obama needing to watch out was one of concern. The machine simply determined that based on a series of words, veto was a potential threat.
Pre-crime, their belief, this potential breach of the peace, their belief that you might cause a crime. There's pre-crime arrest in Minority Report.
Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubin to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours and 4 minutes.
No,
I didn't do anything.
This arrest that happened on the royal wedding day when I attended a zombie flash mob wedding picnic.
Right.
And myself and 4 other zombies were arrested preemptively for potential breach of the peace.
Even if you dress up as a zombie, it seems to me that the crime isn't really committed until you eat some brains.
Yep. To be fair, we did have some brain cake.
Oh.
So there's that.
How did they know that you were going to be dressing up as a zombie this day? There could have been emails or anything really.
It could have been, like, it's hard to know. Yeah.
I think that's the toughest thing,
That's the scary
right?
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The indication that they were monitoring private social networks came in the way they were reacting to certain things and asking about certain things. So they were asking about maggots and asking about climbing gear, which they must have heard about through some exchanges on the internet, neither of which was true. Nobody had maggots or climbing gear. Not something that was itself posing a hazard to the royal wedding celebrations. We were nowhere near the royal wedding celebrations, and we had no plan of going near the royal wedding celebrations. Anything that wasn't part of the official, ostentatious, joyous, expensive celebrations of this wedding of 2 strangers was prevented from happening. And that seems deeply disturbing. You can see that surveillance measures are being used to silence protests before they even happen.
This was, of course, the royal wedding. We'd all helped pay for the royal wedding. It was it wasn't just a private wedding. You're arresting a professor of anthropology that runs a street theatre group.
One of the keys, one of the keys, one of the keys. I want the keys very much. No, we took the keys.
We couldn't believe this was happening. It was just, we were so obviously a street theatre troupe. Some of us had actually got the costume on, you know. So we were locked away in Lewisham Police Station for 25 hours. Once the whole wedding was safely over, we were let out. For the first time, as far as I'm aware in this country, a number of us, something like 50 of us, were arrested and in most cases incarcerated for thinking about protest, for thinking about, in this case, some street theatre.
A lot of life is based upon trust. I mean, if you have a conversation with your inner circle on a key strategic decision that is vital to your company, and you read about it in the newspaper before the decision is implemented, in other words, you get preempted from acting because somebody inside your company has talked, you're not going to like it, and it'll hurt.
The activists didn't need to commit any crime. They just needed to text, to email, and to call each other about potentially protesting.
But I think that the answer is not to take away the capacity of looking at the public actions of citizens and keeping a record of them. The solution is to make sure that we elect better governments.
So one of the things I hear a lot is, who cares if they're collecting all of this information about me? I don't have anything to hide, so why does it matter?
Well, I know this argument, and it is not very new. It's old-fashioned, saying we are complying with rules, and so what happens?
Between leading the sinful life I would like to lead and hoping that governments will protect my privacy, or assuming that no one's going to protect my privacy and leading a less sinful life, I'll go with the latter. It's simply just the odds of success seem higher to me.
I congratulate the people who say they have nothing to hide. I don't believe them. And I also say that they're probably hiding something from someone. We all do.
You have nothing to hide till you do. And you are not necessarily going to know what you have to hide or not.
You might remember the case of Millie, a teenage girl in Britain who disappeared in 2002.
Police in Surrey say they're growing increasingly concerned about the safety of a 13-year-old girl who hasn't been